In the previous episodes, we started the GT3 story with the 996. If you are joining us here for the first time, go and watch them, and then come back. If you're buying a GT3 in 2026, the only GT3 to buy is... Let's find out. Well, so far, we have looked at the 996. What about the next generations? Each generation has something special to offer. So what changed with the release of the 997? Because the 996 had already shown what it was capable of, it set an incredibly high bar. So how could Porsche possibly go further? Expectations were high for the next generation, but the outcome surprised everyone. The development didn't start again. Instead, it refined something that was already exceptional. The 997 delivered everything the 996 did, and then took it further. The mission wasn't to change the GT3 formula, it was to evolve it. To understand why the GT3 evolved the way it did, you need to understand one man, Andreas. He approached it as a driver, and more importantly, as an engineer who understood what enthusiasts actually wanted. The GT program had a simple philosophy: build the best possible driver's car and don't dilute it. In 2006, the launch of this 997 Gen 1 was a game changer. The 996 had proved the concept. It showed Porsche that there was a genuine market for a road car built around motorsport principles. It had more power, but not at the expense of feel, quicker to 60, more grip, without masking feedback, more performance, without adding too many electronics. Hydraulic steering stayed. The naturally aspirated 3.6 Mezger engine stayed. The manual gearboxes stayed. These weren't accidents by Andreas, they were deliberate decisions. The result was a car that caught the attention of every manufacturer. The press loved it. And here, Vicki Butler-Henderson does the talking.
£79,540. 0 to 62 miles an hour in 4.3 seconds. 193 miles an hour. This GT3 is the 911 for people who love driving. No, wait, no. Who love driving. In simple terms, it's a rear-wheel drive 911 with big power and little weight. But the devil is in the detail. The oily bits in the engine have been lightened so it revs more freely. The rear spoiler can be adjusted, and this little lip gives you more downforce without increasing drag. At the front, vents send cooling air to the brakes, while this lets hot air escape from the radiator. And if you're handy with a spanner, then the suspension is fully adjustable. Then we come to the tyres, specially designed with minimal tread so they act like grippy racing slicks in the dry. We're at Cadwell Park as 74% of owners will apparently go on a track day. So, how does it fare? Let's find out. It really does feel as much like a racing car as I could ever really imagine.
To understand the 997 upgrades, we have to look at the details of the 996 first. So let's go full geek mode, and hopefully you will learn something that even you didn't know. To identify the 996 is easy. Just look at the front. Remember the fried egg headlights. The 997 returned to the classic round headlights. The 996 remains the only 911 generation to break from that tradition. The change in headlight design on the 996 wasn't designed for controversy. It was about necessity.
Come on, Uncle Phil, this is the 90s, man.
Man, it's the 90s. It's hammer time.
This is the 90s, the 1990s in point of fact.
Does your girlfriend have a girlfriend?
Hey, it's the 90s.
The 996 was being developed in the mid-1990s. Porsche was under serious financial pressure. The 993 is often remembered as one of the most loved 911s ever built. But behind the scenes, it placed Porsche in a very difficult position. It was a brilliant car that was too expensive to build and slow to produce. By the mid-1990s, Porsche was building cars in a way that simply wasn't sustainable for a small manufacturer. Despite the success, they were losing money, and at the same time, changes were being forced on the automotive world. Emissions regulations, noise limits, global compliance requirements. To move forward and survive, they needed a new technical direction. The 996 wasn't a betrayal, it was Porsche saving the 911. It had to work, and they made sure nobody looked away while they did it. The 996 certainly got attention.
If we never release a new Porsche 911, the sun will still shine. Life will go on. For the world is quite satisfied with the 911 it has now. Unfortunately, we're not very good at being satisfied. Introducing the new 911. It's everything we know so far, which is a lot.
The 996 moved to water cooling. This move frustrated many, but this wasn't a rejection of Porsche's heritage. They had to move from air to water cooling for many reasons. The problem was, air-cooled engines struggled to meet emissions targets consistently. They were harder to silence without sacrificing performance. They also offered less precise temperature control. So give Porsche a break, because this change to water cooling was a reset to protect the 911. The soul didn't disappear, it evolved. The lessons learned from the 993 directly shaped the 996's design philosophy. To some, the shape of the 996 is their favorite. Let me know in the comments if this is you and why. It wasn't just a styling or engine changes, it was a major step forward in chassis engineering and safety. With the 996, Porsche redesigned the platform completely. It featured a wider track front and rear, a revised multi-link rear suspension geometry, and improved anti-lift and anti-squat characteristics. A much stiffer body shell thanks to modern manufacturing methods. This improved crash structures, provided a better energy absorption, overall a stronger passenger cell. This was the first truly modern 911. But the biggest shift was to share components with other models to reduce build costs. This meant sharing parts with the Boxster. Not only did this reduce costs dramatically, it improved build efficiency. So let me throw something to you. Is a Boxster a cheap man's Porsche, or a car built cheaper because it shared costs with a 911? But let's get back on track. This video is about buying a GT3, and we are about to look at the 997. So why was this all relevant? Well, to understand, you will need to watch the next video, and it will all make sense. Thanks for watching, and see you again soon.